All right, let's get right into it. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna draws this really clear line between what he calls divine and demonic tendencies. But this isn't just some simple story of good versus evil. He's actually explaining how certain mindsets don't just harm other people. They literally build a trap for the person who has them. And today, we're going to look at the engine of that trap, this vicious cycle between ego and desire.
And I want to be super clear from the get-go. What Krishna is describing here, it isn't just ancient mythology. It is a precise psychological blueprint, a predictable, almost mechanical process of how we imprison ourselves, and it's all driven by two core forces that we are about to unpack.
So, this engine of self-imprisonment, how does it actually run? Well, it's powered by the fusion of ego and desire. Think of them like two gears locked together, spinning each other faster and faster, until you can't tell them apart. But to really get a handle on the trap, we first have to define ego correctly, because I promise you, it's probably not what you think.
And this distinction is so important. Krishna isn't knocking things like strength or self-respect or being good at your job. That's not the problem at all. He's targeting a very specific and very toxic belief system. It's this core belief that says, hey, the world revolves around me. I deserve whatever I want, and here's the kicker. The rules don't apply to me. I'm not accountable for my actions. And that belief right there, that's the key that unlocks the whole trap. The moment you truly start to believe that accountability doesn't apply to you, you've essentially unplugged from reality. And in that state, when you're disconnected, well, desire just runs wild. There are no brakes, no limits. It's completely off the leash. So now you have this ego that's cut off from reality, and you have desire running wild. Let's look at how they team up to create this endless, insatiable loop. This is the point where desire isn't just about wanting something, it actually takes over and becomes who you are. And the crazy thing is, it can never, ever be satisfied. Let's dig into why.
You might be thinking, hang on, getting what you want is supposed to be a good thing, right? How does that turn into a prison? It's a great question, and the answer is fascinating. It has nothing to do with what you want and everything to do with why you want it.
Here's the heart of it. When that fragile ego gets tangled up with desire, it stops being about the car or the promotion or the money. It becomes about propping up a shaky sense of self. You're chasing more power just to feel a little less insecure. You're grabbing for more control just to feel a bit superior. You're seeking more pleasure just to run away from that empty feeling inside. And sure, getting what you want feels good for a second. But all it does is make the craving even stronger next time. That's the trap.
And you can see how this becomes a downward spiral, right? It's such a predictable pattern. First, desire pops up. Then the ego jumps in, screaming, I deserve that. I'm entitled to it. To get it, suddenly ethics become, well, flexible, or they're just tossed out the window. Any harm you cause along the way gets rationalized away. And with every single turn of this cycle, the walls of the trap just get thicker and stronger.
You know, after a while, this isn't just a pattern of behavior anymore. It becomes an entire worldview. The person stuck in this loop genuinely starts to believe that there's no real moral order, no true accountability, and ultimately no real consequences. They think they've found the ultimate freedom, but Krishna's point is sharp as a tack. That's not freedom. It's just being blind.
Now, you might think that someone caught in this loop would feel powerful, maybe even invincible. But Krishna pulls back the curtain to show us what's really going on inside, and it's the total opposite. Internally, they're incredibly threatened, they're fragile, and they're living in this constant state of agitation.
Which leads to a really good question, doesn't it? If these individuals are getting everything they want and feel so entitled, why are they so often filled with rage and aggression? Why the cruelty? It seems like it shouldn't fit, but it makes perfect sense.
All that anger, it's basically the steam blowing off from the internal pressure cooker. Just think about it for a second. Their desire is never fully satisfied. Their ego is like a fortress that's always under attack, so it has to be defended 24/7. The game of comparing themselves to others is exhausting, and it never ends. And underneath it all, there's this constant, gnawing paranoia that they could lose everything. You put all that together, it is the perfect recipe for anxiety and rage.
And this is one of the most profound insights in the whole chapter. Krishna just completely flips our understanding of aggression. He says that cruelty isn't a sign of strength. It isn't power. It is, and this is just brilliant, it's fear wearing a suit of armor. It's an outward show designed to hide just how fragile and scared they feel on the inside.
Okay, so this is an ancient psychological map, but let's bring it right into our world today. This isn't just some abstract philosophy. This pattern of power without accountability plays out everywhere, from corporate boardrooms to global politics.
I mean, you see it all the time. Leaders who refuse to take any responsibility for their failures. Entire economic systems that seem to be driven by nothing but unchecked greed. And you even see it on a smaller scale with individuals who confuse their own personal sense of entitlement with actual freedom. It's the same old psychological loop, just in modern dress.
So how does this all end? Well, chapter 16 is pretty clear that these people, these systems, they eventually collapse. And it's not because of some divine punishment coming down from the sky. It's because reality itself just has a natural resistance to being twisted out of shape. You can't build a sustainable life or a sustainable society on a foundation that denies accountability. Sooner or later, reality corrects the course and consequences arrive.
And that brings us to the core warning in all of this. The damage from this ego-desire loop isn't just external. The primary victim is always the person caught inside it. Ego doesn't just harm others, it builds a prison, and the person serving it is the only inmate.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. What if real freedom isn't about fighting or suppressing our desires? What if, instead, it's about dissolving the very false identity, that needy ego, that makes those desires so insatiable in the first place? According to this wisdom, that's not just a path to peace. It's the only way out of the prison we build for ourselves.